Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Hope everyone had a wonderful and a safe weekend. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, U.S. sponsor held in slaying of Trini woman. That was such a sad story to read. The New York Police Department, NYPD, has held a suspect in the gruesome murder of Trinidadian mother, Salisha Ali. According to a report by the Associates Times, investigators believe that Ali's murder is linked to her immigration status. It is believed that Ali of Brazil village Talparo was allegedly involved in an immigration-related marriage in the U.S. That is really sad, boy. NYPD police have detained a suspect. Information received points to a domestic conflict after Ali left the sponsor for someone else. It is being reported. I hope and pray that individual is tried very quickly. In America, you don't really hear much about this. You don't hear about rope justice, but maybe some different type of sending into eternity justice is carried out. Sleep better. Say goodbye to stiff necks, headaches, and restless nights. Our premium cervical pillow is designed to perfectly support your neck and spine, keeping your body aligned while you sleep. Soft yet firm, it adapts to your shape, giving you ultimate comfort and deep, rejuvenating rest. Whether you sleep on your back, side, or stomach, this pillow reduces pressure points, eases tension, and helps you wake up feeling refreshed and ready to conquer the day. Invest in your sleep. Your neck will thank you. WhatsApp 762-6589 to place your order and feel the difference from the very first night. Over the weekend, Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar, we the People's Prime Minister, is accusing the PNM of attempting to instill fear and anxiety in the public over the arrival of a U.S. warship on Sunday. The Prime Minister said the U.S. military will be assisting this country with its drug and arms interdiction effort. And she's questioning why the PNM is against that. The Homeland Security Minister is advising the public to conduct their business as normal, at least until advised otherwise. My response? Here comes Captain Akash to the rescue, because he was the one, I believe, that interviewed Kamala Persad-Bissessar, Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar. I said, may the mystical powers of the mighty morphin Ghanayam be with you and Ria Rambali always. Yes, wonderful PNM faithful devotees. If the USA requested that classification or classified information isn't released to the public and PNM media, that the UNC administration is being wise by the decision to comply, that they are still providing a certain amount of information, because they are saying they came here to assist in the fight against narco-terrorism. I went on to say, by all means, pray and remain observant, because I do believe there's a lot more that is not being told, but I believe it's classified information at this point in time. But Trinidadians don't want to hear about that because UNC is in office. If PNM was in office and the emperor, the former emperor Rowley, was in office, no one would have been there asking any questions of why certain information isn't being told. It would have said it's sensitive information, therefore we cannot speak about it at this point in time. And the media would have just bowed down and said, amen. So I wanted to say, by all means, pray and be observant, but don't allow the mainstream media and the PNM to cause you to get an anxiety attack.
In the context of increasing geopolitical tensions between the US and Venezuela, last evening the nation was informed via a media release that the USS Gravely, a guided missile destroyer, is on its way to the port of Port of Spain for a 5-day stay. And while there have been calls from members of the media for the Prime Minister or Minister of Foreign Affairs to host a media conference to fully understand the reason for this visit, amidst rising aggression between the US and Venezuela, what we got was a written statement from the Prime Minister, who said any feelings of panic and anxiety in this country are machinations of the PNM. The Prime Minister said the visit forms part of ongoing security cooperation between Trinidad and Tobago and the US, and Prasad Bisasa is questioning why the opposition is attempting to sow fear and confusion to undermine those efforts. In her media release, the Prime Minister expressed deep concern that the PNM, a party she accused of having long suspected ties to the local drug underworld, is actively seeking to undermine national efforts to combat the trafficking of drugs, arms and people. She said the opposition's ongoing campaign of misinformation appears intended to sabotage these interdiction initiatives in order to shield their alleged criminal backers. The Prime Minister said this country needs all the help it can get to stop the drugs, guns and murders, and the Prime Minister said the visit augurs well for this country, and she welcomes the joint military training with the US. Meanwhile, the Homeland Security Minister called for business as usual, at least for now.
Listen, tell the public that they must go about their lawful business unless otherwise directed. And that's how the system works.
Minister Alexander said he's not aware of any escalation of aggression, but rather an escalation of interest in people wanting to see the vessel, which has missile launching capabilities.
Schools are calling to find out if they can go and look at the ship and all of that. So it seems to be a tourist thing, more or less.
And in attempting to seek more answers in lieu of a media briefing, CNC3 News sought out elected representatives outside of the Red House.
Some members of the public are asking, are we on the brink of war?
As the Honourable Prime Minister said yesterday, we have no information about any war.
And while this will disrupt operations at the port of Port of Spain, Minister Padaret said the benefits outweigh the inconveniences. Meanwhile, another government minister was asked,
name one benefit of the US ship being here to the country. One benefit to the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
They're going to be helping out with schools, helping our military in terms of training and so on.
Now, the finance minister dismissed questions about what the financial impact the disruption at the port would be.
I have no comments on this today. Thank you.
And the housing minister sought to dismiss the notion that some people are anxious with these recent developments.
Are you feeling uneasy?
Some people are.
Well, I've not come across anyone who's uneasy. I am not uneasy.
Meanwhile, the opposition PNM is of an entirely different view.
Nothing about this is normal.
We are not foolish as a people.
And the opposition leader believes even though it was the PNM government that signed the latest State of Forces agreement with the US,
you now have a new government in power, and that government has the responsibility to tell the population very clearly what their position is.
Akash Samaru, CNC3 News.
Ladies, meet your new go-to bag, our Mega Duffel handbag. Perfect for your travel, shopping, the gym, and everything in between. Crafted from premium Oxford material, it's not just stylish, it's built to last. The ideal size, flawless design, and unbeatable quality make it the bag you'll reach for every time. Versatile and ready for anything. WhatsApp 762-6589 to order yours today. International relations experts say endorsement by Trinidad and Tobago conservative leader Rodrigo Paz Pereira as the new president of Bolivia in a joint statement with the United States and 6 Latin American countries shows that TNT is becoming more aligned with the U.S. government. I try to understand what is so wrong with that. The issue that really have with it is because, as I said from the very beginning, since April, that the Kamala Prasad Bisasa regime is leaning more and more towards the conservative side of politics, which will benefit Trinidad and Tobago in many ways. My response, I could imagine how Benab Ria's expression was when this report was being posted. Up to last night on the news, a look of rage was displayed while mentioning Prime Minister Kamala's name. That was over the weekend. Anyone wants to say that I'm talking nonsense? Feel free to review the footage for yourself, the video footage for yourself, and you will see what I am saying. As soon as PNM names are mentioned, a smile suddenly returns. No more overheating phones. Cool your phones in seconds. prevents damage to phones and battery issues, better gaming experience and streaming, USB powered and fast charging, lightweight and quiet, ideal for kids and adults, works with all smartphones, makes a great gift. Call or WhatsApp 868-762-6589. In signing the statement, former Prime Minister Keith Rowley, the Emperor, who turned 76 yesterday, aligned himself, but that was not yesterday, that was over the weekend, aligned himself with a call to preserve the region as a zone of peace. Yes, people, we have a zone of peace in the Caribbean, people. All right. Even though it's controlled by narco-terrorists, amid the U.S. military campaign in the Caribbean Sea that has left at least 34 deceased. My response, the retired emperor still believes that his personal opinion matters here in TNT or has any sort of effect on the decisions that are made by the government of Trinidad and Tobago, or that he still represents Trinidad in some sort of way in the CARICOM community. That was totally disrespectful what he did in the first place. Just imagine if Kamala Persad-Bissessar did that as opposition leader or as a retired former prime minister. That was totally disrespectful. What the former prime minister, or as I call him, emperor, because that's what he really believes, and I believe he still thinks he's the emperor of TNT. What he did there was extremely wrong. I said, why haven't you sailed into the sunset with wifey and special branch yet, Pops? Tired of losing your keys, phone, or coins in that annoying gap between your car seat and the console? We've got the perfect solution. Our universal car seat gap fillers are back in stock, ready to save your stuff and make your ride clutter-free. Available in black, brown, beige, and red, they're designed to fit any car seat and blend perfectly with your interior. Simply WhatsApp 762-6589 to place your order and enjoy delivery straight to your door in just 1 to 3 days. A U.S. citizen was robbed twice of $66,000 after chasing and retrieving the stolen cash from two bandits, then sadly being robbed again. Wow. My goodness. My response, zone of peace. Just like I just said just out there. Emperor Rowley says that we have a zone of peace in the Caribbean. These patriots simply reaped the fruits of their ancestral inheritance. The individuals who took that money from him, what they were doing with all that money in the first place. Sometimes you had to really wonder about these stories. These individuals walking around with this large lump sum of money. For what reason? That's the question. Was it that you really were robbed? Or were you conducting some type of transaction and you were double-crossed? But anyhow, as I said, these individuals, anyhow you take it, double-crossed or not, they reaped their ancestral inheritance, and now they are very happy, eating a box, probably a whole bucket of KFC with wifey at home over the weekend. Probably both days they did. They chilled out on the block with their partners, smoked some herbs, and said, yes, we are the best. We are the greatest in the entire world. We are able to take what belongs to us from anyone, anywhere. You won't be disappointed with this one. Look and feel great every day. Painless trimming with no pulling of hair guaranteed. Comfortable to hold and lightweight. Intelligent anti-pinch system. Safety travel lock. Accurate and painless trimming. Durability, 100% quality. Fast charging. To place an order, call or WhatsApp 868-762-6589. Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar has hit back a former prime minister of the Caribbean community, CARICOM, who have signed a zone of peace declaration. Says all of them basically getting into that nonsense of being former leaders of the country and signing these things to condone, denounce what is taking place. Oh, so it's not just Rowley. It's not just Rowley being disrespectful. So, okay, give him a lie there. He just followed everybody else, okay? So, getting back to what I said there. So, Kamala Persad-Bissessar has hit back at former prime ministers of the Caribbean community who have signed a zone of peace declaration, saying regional leaders do not understand the level of crime this country has to endure. My response: tribals in the Caribbean believe that the terms drugs and gangs are simply used by politicians and police to stigmatize we the people. No, not we the people. We people of love, Jed. In other words, gangsters. I went on to say this is why so many oppose the white man's war on drugs and human trafficking. An elder recently told me earlier this year that most gangs in TNT aren't actually gangs, and these people are simply misunderstood. When they, he did not say that when they do commit crimes that it isn't wrong. He said it's wrong, but he doesn't actually really consider the gangs itself to be of criminal nature or wrong. Ghetto and gang culture, is simply evil, people. It is demonic. Moving on now to some regional news, and we're starting off with Guyana. When Marlon Fraser was just 12 years old, his world changed dramatically. The passing of his father meant that the young boy from Martysville, Monrepos, had to shoulder full responsibility for his family's small farm. But what could have ended a childhood instead became the beginning of a remarkable journey, one that has seen him rise as a promising leader in Guyana's small ruminant industry. He said, "My father was my teacher," Marlon recalled, reflecting on long days spent tending to Barbados blackbelly sheep and helping in the family's fruit orchard. Everything I know started from those lessons at home. Taking over the reins so young wasn't easy though, but with determination and a clear vision, Marlon transformed tragedy into purpose. One of his main goals after his father's passing was to improve the genetics of his flock, creating animals that could meet the growing demand for better feed breeding, stock, and high quality meat. What an inspirational story coming out from Guyana, and there are many of them. Work on the first phase of the International Parika Port is progressing smoothly and will be heightened in the coming weeks as the project advances. The $4.5 billion Guyanese dollars port facility will facilitate international travel for cruise liners or cargo ships transporting produce to the Caribbean and for persons seeking luxury travel. Importantly, the new port will help modernize Guyana's export process and significantly boost regional trade as Guyana continues to journey towards first world status. It's going to take years. It's going to take a whole lot of years if God tarries and if Jesus doesn't return now, or anytime in the next couple years or so. But nevertheless, they are on the right path to first world status. As the oil and gas sector continues to transform Guyana's economy, opportunities are reaching more citizens than ever before, thanks to the Irfan Ali administration. As president of ExxonMobil Guyana, Alastair Rutledge has revealed that about 1,800 Guyanese are working offshore. The oil boss made these remarks during a preview of today's of starting point, as he explained that growing the Guyanese workforce is one of our top priorities, providing more employment for the citizens of Guyana. Once again, that is wonderful news. Moving on to Jamaica now. The St. Catherine South Police are searching for the driver involved in a hit-and-run crash on Sunday that claimed the life of an 80-year-old man. These things grieve me so much when I read it. You live to such an old age, a blessed age, and then to have to die so tragically. God have mercy. But nevertheless, condolences to the family. The deceased has been identified as Roy Pickers Gill of Edgewater, Portmore. Reports are that about 3:50 a.m., Pickers Gill was riding a bicycle along George Lee Boulevard near the Portmore Town Center when he was hit by a motor vehicle. Now, of course, we don't know. There are no details thus far to show whether the biker, the elderly man, was probably in a wrong area that he shouldn't have been, or if he didn't have proper reflectors or lights on I don't know. But we know how reckless drivers are on our roadways. And therefore, if evidence prove that this man was struck by a reckless driver who was speeding, I'm telling you, laws need to change. Stop charging these drivers with manslaughter, charge them with first-degree murder. They know that their reckless actions are endangering the lives of others, including themselves. And therefore, first-degree murder and sent into eternity as the form of punishment. Recently, both Standard & Poor's, S&P, and the Bank of Jamaica have sounded a quiet alarm, concerned people. Despite macroeconomic stability and strong capital buffers, credit growth has slowed from around 11% in 2023 to roughly 6% in 2024. S&P points to Jamaica's slow GDP and per capita income growth as the core culprits. At the end of the day, they're being governed by Andrew Holness, and as much as I love how he supports the war against narco-terrorism to an extent, he hasn't really said that he's supporting America's presence in the Caribbean, but he does support the war against crime and narco-terrorism, and he is doing a significant job when it pertains to fighting crime in Jamaica. But he has a lot more changing to do, or progress to do, when it pertains to the actual governing of the country, development of infrastructure, and provide or implementing the right types of policies for economic growth in Jamaica. And of course, that will also expand employment. Maria Corina Machado publicly endorsed President Donald Trump's recent military strikes on drug-running vessels linked to Nicolas Maduro, saying Trump is stopping the war, ending the war that Maduro started. It is so refreshing to see a bold leader, a bold politician in Venezuela who is actually coming out, which is very dangerous. As long as you're anywhere around Maduro, you can be quietly sent into eternity, and all of a sudden no one is hearing about you anymore. That's to tell you how dangerous that man is. But nevertheless, this is why I have nothing against the Venezuelan people of Venezuela. I'm hoping and praying for regime change so that someone like this woman could become the president of Venezuela, and diplomatic relations can be restored between America and Venezuela, and therefore prosperity will begin to take place in that country. And we here in Trinidad and Tobago will benefit as well. The claims that the Israeli government ordered the IDF to sacrifice the hostages during Operation Gideon's Chariots stand in stark contrast to the reality on the ground. In the areas where the IDF operated over recent months in the southern Gaza Strip, there were restricted zones. The army deliberately avoided entering or bombing based on assessments that hostages were being held in those areas. Within these areas, Hamas operatives realized they were largely immune. They not only guarded the hostages, but also launched attacks against IDF soldiers from within these safe zones, fully exploiting Israel's restraints. So therefore, that is not a war, people. That is sabotage. That is terrorism. If you're in a combat zone, fine. Whoever ends up losing their life, that is part of war. But you're talking about you're cowardly going and attacking Israeli IDF military officers, and then you're going back and running into the zones and saying, "Ha, you can't touch me in these areas." Do you see how evil and even childish the actions of the Hamas are? From one such zone, terrorists repeatedly carried out attacks, killing soldiers before retreating unharmed to the area where airstrikes were prohibited, including during some of the deadliest incidents. Altogether, around 12 IDF soldiers were killed by terrorists operating from that immune area, which held a single hostage. I hope the woke community in Israel and around the world, but in Israel itself, I hope they are happy that the individuals that went out there to protect them lost their lives because no one wanted the IDF to fully attack Gaza because of the hostages. I hope Trump himself is happy as well.
But there is a danger that is very real, and we've talked about anti-Semitism. Listen, about a decade ago, anti-Semitism began rising on the left. And the Democratic Party did nothing. And in the decade that followed, it has consumed the Democrat Party. I do not believe this is exaggeration to say there is a real and meaningful pro-Hamas contingent of the Democrat Party in Washington. And the remainder of the Democrats are terrified of the pro-Hamas contingent. We know that. But the danger that I want to highlight to you tonight is not anti-Semitism on the left. It is anti-Semitism on the right. And I'm here to tell you, in the last 6 months, I have seen anti-Semitism rising on the right in a way I have never seen it in my entire life. Listen, CUFI is extraordinary. The work that CUFI does is desperately, desperately needed. But I'm here to tell you, the church is asleep right now. If I pick up my phone and send out a tweet, if I say good morning, within minutes I will have hundreds of blatantly anti-Semitic responses. When Prime Minister Netanyahu was here a few months ago, I sat down with him for a couple of hours. I raised this issue with him. And his first reaction was, he said, well, that's Qatar, that's Iran, they're paying for it, it's AstroTurf. And I said, Mr. Prime Minister, yes, but no. Yes, Qatar and Iran are clearly paying for it, and there are bots, and they are putting real money behind it. But I am telling you, this is real, it is organic, these are real human beings, and it is spreading. In the last year, we had 3 prominent voices on the right publicly muse, gosh, maybe Hitler wasn't that bad a guy after all. Yes, he was. He was the embodiment of evil. And I asked Prime Minister Netanyahu, I said, imagine how different American political history would have been if Rush Limbaugh had been an anti-Semite instead of a philo-Semite. We would have a fundamentally different country if Rush Limbaugh had spent years spreading poison. I want to tell especially folks that are no longer teenagers or in your 20s. This poison of anti-Semitism on the right, it is spreading with young people. It is gaining traction. Part of it is philosophical. There's an isolationism. So they will argue, what business do we have supporting Israel? Why should America support Israel? It's their problem. Let them deal with it. And let me give you an answer as someone elected to represent 31 million Texans and fight every day for your jobs, your freedom, and your safety and security. The United States supports Israel not because we are helping out a down-on-his-luck neighbor. We're not engaged in a charity act. The United States supports Israel because it is unequivocally in the national security interest of the United States to support Israel.
We've done a lot together in the last, especially in the last year. What we've done is incredible. Peace to the Middle East. And they were a very big factor in it. So I just want to thank you. I was thinking, we're landing here, we're going to fuel up, and it's such an honor to have you on the plane. You don't do this often. First time. I don't think he's ever done this, actually. But it's
the flight that never landed. 64 days in the sky. In 1958, 2 Nevada pilots set out to break an aviation record. They ended up creating one that still hasn't been beaten to this day. But of course, if somebody actually attempts it, most likely it will. Robert, Tim, and John Cook flew a modified airplane for 64 days, 22 hours and 19 minutes from December 4th, 1958 to February 7th, 1959, without ever touching the ground once. The plane was modified with a 95-gallon belly fuel tank, a sink, and even plumbing that allowed oil and filter changes in the flight, and plumbing probably for other purposes as well. I mean, you're up there for so many days, you're definitely going to have to use the toilet. Twice a day, they refueled from a moving truck on a desert highway near Blythe, California, flying just 10 feet above the road while a hose was passed up by a cable. Hot meals, water, and supplies were also handed up from the truck in thermos jugs. They took 4-hour shifts, battling exhaustion, turbulence, and mechanical failures, including a failed generator, broken autopilot, and a near stall while one pilot slept. By the end, the engine had run continuously for over 15,000 hours, and they had flown an estimated 150,000 miles, equal to 6 trips people around the entire Earth. Landing and legacy on February 7th, 1959, the Cessna touched down safely in Las Vegas, both men exhausted but alive. Their record for longest continuous manned flight still stands over 65 years later. Wow. What an inspirational story. What a wonderful story to end this news report with. Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe, most of all, in Jesus' name.